recording this session, beginning that recording now. We make these available to you as a resource so you can review, share with your colleagues. We've also just, because these are made available as YouTube recordings or recordings via a YouTube channel, I think it's a private channel. We have made a playlist. Kara, my colleague who's on with us today, has made that available. So a link to that recording exists on several IMS web pages, but essentially there's a playlist of the different Roundtable recordings that are now available to the public. So these live meetings are restricted to IMS members only, Alliance, affiliate, or contributing members. But we are now making the recordings, past recordings of these Roundtable sessions available to the public. And they're in a form of a YouTube playlist. Kara, I don't know if the link to that playlist is on the Roundtable Resources forum post.
I'll add it, and I'm going to also put it in the chat for
you
right now.
Yeah, I know it exists on some other IMS pages that the public would hopefully stumble upon or find useful. So we'd like to make that available to you as well. So if there are specific videos or past recordings you want to share with partners or friends and family, you're welcome to do that in the form of a YouTube playlist or individual recordings. So, all right, so let's go ahead and begin the meeting officially. If those who are just joining or have just joined in the last few minutes, if you would sign in at the shared Google link, we'd appreciate your doing that so we have a record of who's attending these meetings. So as is typical, we remind you during these meetings that IMS has an intellectual property rights policy that helps protect the integrity of the specification development process so that we avoid any malicious intent by individual or organization to insert patents or intellectual property into the standard and then make claims that would make the standard no longer open or freely available. So if you have questions about IMS's IPR policy, you can read it at imsglobal.org/IP. I will read a brief statement related to the IPR policy at this time. So please inform me if you are personally aware of any claims under any patent applications or issued patents that would be likely to be infringed by an implementation of the specification or other work product that's the subject of this meeting. You need not be the inventor of such patent or patent application in order to inform us that a claim might exist, nor will you be held responsible for expressing a belief that turns out to be inaccurate. And if you prefer to discuss IP patent-related questions outside of this meeting, you're welcome to contact me or any other IMS staff member directly. IMS also has a participation agreement. You can find links to these two statements just under the list of attendees in that shared Google document for our agenda today. The participation agreement published at imsglobal.org/PA essentially asks that details of the discussions in these meetings or draft documentation not be shared outside of the membership of this group. All right, well, we'd like to welcome you all to this, this meeting. I'll be running a little poll throughout the meeting. I'm not sure exactly at what point I'll make that available. Maybe just do it now. It's more just to help us understand the different areas from which our audience is coming, their perspectives, and what's your interest in LTI, implementing LTI, or procuring LTI related products. So I'll launch that poll now and appreciate your response to those. And as you can see in our shared agenda document, we will just quickly cover a little tour of the IMS LTI webpage, and then we'll have a demonstration from Unicon about their LTI-based learning testing tool, and then a demonstration from Turnitin about tool side registration. And then questions, if folks have questions during the presentations, I'm sure those doing the demonstrations would be happy to answer them. But just general questions related to LTI or IMS, feel free to add them to the chat. There's also a Google form. There's a link to there in our agenda if you want to submit a question more formally today or throughout the month in the weeks that between these roundtable meetings. So first, let me share my screen and we can just do a quick review of the IMS, the main LTI landing page, and some resources that are available there that we want to alert you to, and make sure that you're aware of what resources are available. So, so this is the main LTI activity page or landing page, and you can find all sorts of information. If you're logged in, you'll see a little bit more information, something like this LTI update, where we provide a monthly updates on the status of where things are going with the LTI project group and other related activities as far as developing new services, extensions, conformance certification updates, that sort of thing. So be sure you're logged into the IMS website. Some of this information will only be visible if you are currently logged in. So we have listed here a link to the reference implementation. Hopefully you've used that, you've taken advantage of it. If you don't know much about it, it is a hosted sample platform and sample tool that you can connect your related platform or tool and do some testing for LTI Advantage. The source code is also available to IMS members, and you'll need GitHub access in order to see that. But if anyone has questions, there's some links here on how to get access to it. So I wanted to point that out. There's been a recent update to some open issues on the reference implementation, as well as an addition with the proctoring service. So there was a question that was submitted through the Google form about proctoring that we'll get to towards the end of our call today with the Q&A section. But I just wanted folks to be aware of how you might find new extensions or services that are related to LTI 1.3, LTI Advantage, that are not formally defined as part of LTI Advantage. But submission review, caliper, analytics connector, course group service, and the proctoring service are all new additions that are in various stages of a candidate final, either public or member only. So again, you'll need to be signed in through your member account to access submission, caliper, course group service. Proctoring service is available currently as a public candidate final. So I just wanted to let you know that in case you didn't know how to find some of these documents, this is a good place to look, this main LTI landing page. And if you're curious on how you might find that from the IMS, the main IMS homepage, if you're just looking under developers, and you'll find LTI Advantage link. And that'll take you right to this main LTI activity, LTI landing page. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. If you're having trouble accessing anything, finding specific documents, you can always contact IMS, contact me directly as well. All right, so I'll stop sharing here and we can go right to our next agenda item. And we'll hear from Diego and or Linda about the Unicon tool.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Linda.
Hey. Hello. All right. Well, so yeah. So as Mark said, Diego and I are going to present one of the tools that we built here at Unicon that might be helpful to people who are getting started with LTI and LTI Advantage services. So just a quick intro. So my name's Linda Fang. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a software architect at Unicon. I'm here with Diego, who's one of our developers. And Unicon is a consulting company. We have been around for many years and have helped lots of schools and companies over the years with LTI. And we've also been involved in the LTI Vantage work since it got underway. And so now we're working with more and more people on LTI implementations. So you can go to the next slide, Diego. So I'm going to get started with a couple of slides and then I'm going to hand it over and Diego's going to do the bulk of the demo here. But first wanted to just kind of make sure in the chat if could find out if there are people out there who have been looking for an open source example tool that they could use for learning. So that's kind of something that we think could be useful, but just wanted to get a check to see if there are folks who are interested in that. And so here you can go to the next slide. So at Unicon, a lot of what we tend to do is with our customers is listen. So I just want to share with you what we hear that makes us realize that people will benefit from LTI. So these are some signs that you might need LTI. So things like, I want my users to have the same experience no matter which LMS they're using. Sometimes we have heard that they have long 20-page manuals that just explain how to connect from their tool into the LMS. They just have users who need access to the tool and don't know how to get there, and their schools are enforcing an LMS-only policy. In some cases, we hear from customers who are actually paying fees to connect to each of the individual LMSs kind of in a one-off way, and that can be very painful as well. So the most common requests that we see kind of fall into 3 categories. So there's kind of like your basic vanilla. It's your tool launch. You need to do launch from an LMS without requiring another sign-in. You usually also may want to bring back a result from the tool. And then you also need for your instructors to have the ability to pick and choose parts of your content to link from the LMS course. Then you can, after that, get a little more elaborate with your Sunday, and these are the advantage use cases. So you may want to decouple the results from the launch, have more than one result that is attached to the same kind of launch point. You might want your teachers to have a different experience from students. So based on the role, you want to customize that experience. And you may want to pass a richer set of outcome information back from the tool. And then lastly, you've got the out there use cases. These are rare, but they are happening. We see them. Sometimes actually the tool itself is a grading tool. So there's a whole experience around that with simulations and results that actually need to be experienced by both the teacher and the student. And sometimes the tool has its own navigation. So it's really its own platform, and there's things that they want you to be able to do inside there and kind of not get lost once you're there and be able to come back from there. And then a lot of times there's times where the tool is actually maintaining a separate relationship with the users outside of the LMS. So they want the ability for users to go through the LMS and have one experience and then go directly to them and have a different or kind of more consistent experience, but also be known to that tool. So one of the ways that we've found has been helpful for people as they're coming up to speed on LTI is to actually have the use of a hands-on tool. So this is the tool Diego is going to show us next. And we've developed it to help people understand the concepts of LTI and how it works in code. So Diego, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you. Yes. The original idea about creating this tool is because, well, as Linda has said, we were working with LTI Advantage in the beginning with Claude, and we were creating the code for Moodle for that. But we were working with LTI 1.1 and LTI 2. And then LTI 1.3 arrived, the specifications, and I thought that the best way to learn about it was, well, starting to develop my own tool before real customers arrives and ask for it. So I created this tool for me to learn about LTI 1.3, and we decided that this tool can be useful for other people to learn about how LTI 1.3 works too. It's one of the things that you usually search when you are developing are examples about the same thing that you are doing. So if you are developing your own LTI 1.3 tool and you are using Java, including if you are not using Java, you can go to my tool and you can view how I'm doing some things, and you can, well, copy the way that I'm doing it, or including, if, as said, if you are using Java, you can reuse part of that code. The tool is open source, so feel free to use it, and feel free to collaborate with us and contribute code if you find better ways to do things that are there, or extensions. We have used this tool for learning with some customers, and we have used it internally for the developers in Unicon that needed to ramp up with LTI 1.3, and they have found it very, very useful, and they have contributed some improvements to it. So let's go to it. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. So we have 5 points today. We're going to view, just remember or show it for the people that doesn't know how the LTI 1.3 flow works very quickly. We're going to view the tool working in a real demo. I'm going to show to you the code. I'm not going to enter in very big details, but I'm going to show the structure of the code and some small details. Talk about the future of this tool, and well, if we have time, questions and answers that maybe we want to do at the end of the session. I don't know. This is something that Mark can decide. So about the flow, the first thing that we need to know, again, to understand what I'm going to show later in the demo and in the tool, is how the flow works in LTI 1.3. This red box is what happens in the tool side. So we have the platform, we have the user agent, that is the browser, and the tool. Well, the user agent can be considered, maybe sometimes some part of the code can be in the tool or not, but let's imagine that the tool is this red box. So we have in this flow 2 points where the platform is going to query us, and 2 places where we are going to send messages back to the user agent or the platform. So the first part of this flow is going to be the OICD login request that we will receive here in this endpoint, and we will return the OICD request. And then the platform is going to send to us the ID token and the LTI 1.3 request, really. We are going to receive it here, and we are going to do something based on what we are receiving. So today I'm going to show the code and the demo of this part. Well, to do that, let's see if this works in real life or is just a fantasy, as it says here. So we're going to go to a real LMS. In this case, it's going to be Canvas, but it works with all the others. I'm going to show later the configuration. So I tested it with Blackboard, I tested it with Sakai, and with the LTI, the IMS reference implementation. And there are examples of configurations from all of them. So, well, I just choose this because it's the first one in the list that I have. If we go to Canvas, I created this link here using deep linking with my own tool. I'm not going to show that today, but it's a capability that it has. So when I click on this link, what happens is it goes to my tool. So this inside this box is really my tool showing some extra information. In the real world, if we return to that flow that is here, this happens very quickly and the user doesn't view this part. The normal users, this happens between the machines and the user is not aware of this, but I wanted to show here everything that is happening. So here is what the platform is sending to my tool, all the parameters that I receive. And here is the answer that I'm going to send to the OIDC authorization endpoint of the platform. And well, if I click, then the platform receives this authorization, sends again an LTI 1.3 request that is everything that is here. So we can see, for example, the context that is the course. Well, this is the ID of the course, and we have different, the title, everything. So we receive the LTI 1.3 request, and I display it in this page. At the same time, this request was asking for a specific resource that is this one. It's very small, but it's enough to demonstrate that I can return resources with deep linking. And I have a link for the LTI Advantage membership service. If I click here, it queries the platform and returns the list of students and the roles for these users. So it's a demonstration of how LTI 1.3 works. And we're going to view that the code behind has all the security checks and everything that we need to make this work correctly. And at the same time, it's didactic because you can view the results here in the screen. That's something that a normal user will never see. So really, it will only see this part. Okay, let's continue with the presentation. And we're going to view what is behind all this real demo that I showed to you. So let's go to the code. The code is in a public repository in GitHub. Here is the link, and I put the link in the agenda too, so you can go there and check it. And well, I'm going to walk you through this, but let's better go to the real repo. I did a little zoom, so I hope that you can view it good. You have instructions about how to build it and how to run it and creating the database, etc. It's very simple. We are going to take a look at quickly to the code. Oh, let me go first to resources.
Diego, can we ask clarifying question as we go, or should we wait until the end?
I don't know, maybe it's better to wait, but well, now that you have started, if you want to continue, please do it.
No, I had a, no, I'm just asking like if we can ask, because I'm taking notes, but should we ask? I don't have a clarifying question at this point, but I'm just gonna ask before you start showing the code. Should we wait or should we just ask you when?
Well, ask your question, but from now, we will wait to the end, but you can do it.
So like you showed your first request, which is the OIDC request. It had a target link URI, and is that the same as the redirect URI, or is it different?
Well, in my tool, I have a different endpoints. So I'm going to show to you this when we arrive to the controller. So I think that your question is going to be answered in some minutes, very quickly.
Yeah. Just add just in there that usually they're not the same. Usually your target link really identifies the resource you want to display. The redirect URI is purely for the OIDC flow. So usually they would not be the same.
Yeah.
Especially you can have infinity numbers of target link URI, but you have a very limited set of redirect URIs because those needs to be pre-registered in the LMS. So
that is interesting because I've been using Diego's tool for 2 weeks now. And there's some point in this code I can point out where it's using the target URI as the redirect URI. I was a bit confused. By the way, great tool, Diego. Like it's been really helpful for me to understand.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so I was going very quickly to show that we can have different configurations. So here in resource data, when my tool reads this configuration from JSON files, but it's something that you can change, of course, in your platform, because I don't have a user interface to insert all this data. So yes, you can view that I have the different endpoints and everything configured in these JSON files. from the different ones with different values, and you can take a look at those. Yeah, so let's return to the code, and let's go first to answer this question. And here I have the controllers. The controllers are the points where we are going to receive the different messages from different places. I have a configuration controller because I allow to change the configuration using an API. So this is not really LTI 1.3 related. This is just my tool. The GW key service to return the public key of my tool. And I have the main LTI 1.3 controller that is going to receive all the LTI 1.3 calls, deep linking, and the core message 1. And I'm going to have a membership controller that is something that I use for my web, but don't worry about it at this moment. So the important one is the LTI 1.3 controller, and separated to it is the OIDC controller. So returning here, really I have these two endpoints, the OIDC controller and the LTI 1.3 controller. These two endpoints are the ones that are here. If I go to, let's go to this first one, the OIDC controller, very quickly. You can follow here, and you can view in the code that I have comments almost for every line explaining what I'm doing. So it's very easy to understand what it's doing. So first, we receive all the parameters that come here, and we try to extract from these parameters the client ID, and we try to start the issuer, the deployment ID. And when we extract everything that we can, we try to find in our database if this deployment exists, if everything is correct after dealing with some possible errors. We can say, okay, we have this platform here. Let's return the OIDC request. So I have, for example, this generate auth request payload that, well, is here down, where you have an example of how to generate the answer. So including if you are not using Java, coming here and view the different parameters and what I do for each of them can be useful for you to create your own code. And this is, for example, to create the URL, the URL that goes back if you're using get to return. Once
Line 205 is using the target URI for the redirect URI, line number 205.
Yeah.
So is this correct? Because this is the end URL, right? Not the redirect URL. This should be platform.get redirect URI, I believe, right? The platform deployment.get redirect URI. This was the confusing part because I don't know if the redirect URI should be the target URI.
Okay, I think that, well, as we have a very limited time for this presentation, we can talk later if you want. We can chat or have a conversation about this because, yes, now there is another demo after this and we should not spend a lot of time on this. But yes, I will think about this and we can talk later. Okay, so once we have all this, we send everything and we display in the screen the information that I showed to you. So this is the OIDC. If we return to the controllers, we have the LTI 1.3 controller. This LTI 1.3 controller is going to first try to validate everything. So before this happened, if you know a little about Spring Boot, and we go to here, we have the security folder with a filter. This filter is going to be applied here in the security configuration. We are going to apply this filter to every thing that arrives to LTI 1.3. And the filter that is here is going to do all the actions to check first if the state exists in a list of created state, if if we're going to validate the state, we're going to validate the token, everything with the keys. And so this filter first is going to happen always. And when this filter says, okay, this seems to be a really nice LTI 1.3 request, then we arrive really to this controller and we extract everything that comes in this request. We do it with this class that has all the methods to do that with all the parameters, and so we do a little more security checks. We check the nonce and we check everything that is in the specification and a little more, and we fill everything to display later in the screen. But you can do it for your internal use. We get the deep linking if it exists, etc. So once this is done, if I return back to the controller, I think this is the controller. Yeah. Well, depending if we have deep linking or not, we're going to do different actions. And yeah, I don't want to go a little farther here. And we're going to do the actions that we need to do. And here we have two folders that I want you to take a look. We have the service folder with data, for example, to manage all the GWT tokens, create them and check them. We have some services for the membership service, for example, so we can create the right queries to the membership service. We are working now and to create the grades and the assignments and grades service. So we're going to create another Java util service class that is going to have all the queries to talk with the assignments and grades service with all the line item things and the scores and everything. We have a common connector helper that is going to help to get the token from the platform. So all this code can be useful for you. You can create the token request, next page, pagination, etc. So everything is in this utils tools. And yes, here in utils we have something about OAuth and LTI, and we have a interesting one with all these strings that can save to you a lot of time to, if you write code, you copy in this, it's going to be useful for you. So basically, I don't want to go further. The idea is that you have a tool that works, that has demo code, has a lot of comments that explains everything that is in the code, and you can use it free and learn from it and reuse any part that you want in your code. And of course, if you implement anything new and you want to contribute it, for example, the discussion that we're going to have, if you find that something is not correct and you think that you have a better solution for it, please, you can generate an issue here and we will review it and merge it, etc. So feel free to do that. Let's finish now with this. We are going. What are we going to do with this tool from this moment? Well, we are open to collaboration. We are working in at the assignment and grade services, and soon we are going to have more services. So it's going to be very good if we can add all of them in some point. I want to be a little more informative in the membership service screen, because I use display what is coming, but I don't display what I'm sending. So I want to do both things. And of course, we can optimize the code. This is important. So this tool was not designed as a production tool originally. It's just a tool that I used to learn. And well, it has been used for production with some small changes, but you need to have that in mind. You need to create a lot of things for you to put this in production yourself. Another thing that we want to do is isolate the libraries. Now they are in services, but maybe in some moment we can extract everything to a LTI 1.3 Java library that you can import in your project and use them. That could be very nice to have. And of course, open to any other improvement. So the question and answer, as said, I think is better if we'll give Martin the opportunity to do his demo. And if we have time at the end, make this question. If not, here you have my email, and I will be happy to answer any of these questions. So I stop sharing and I pass this to Martin.
Hi, this is Sampath. Yeah, this is a nice demo. I wish this tool can be available like 5-6 months back, because we are working on LTI Advantage. So we just finished assignments and grades also. When I say we, like, I mean, we are like Pearson K12 SAVAS learning.
Nice.
Yeah, let us know, like, if you guys need any kind of information or anything on the assignments and grades. We just finished, and we are about to get the certification. We submitted certification. We are waiting for it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That can be very interesting. Sure.
All right. Can everybody hear me and see my screen? Yes. Yeah. Good. All right. So what I'm going to be demoing today is kind of the bit of LTI that we rarely see, because in the spec it's classed as out of band, which is how do you actually exchange credentials and settings between a tool and a platform. So all the platforms have ways of entering tool details into them. So tools have to do the same thing. We saw some of the platforms doing that in the last roundtable. So this is what Turnitin is doing as a tool to try and kind of make this flow easier and also fit with all the other platforms and how they're working. I will put a slight disclaimer on this. This is not yet live. So if you use Turnitin and you see me do this and then rush to your admin settings to try it out, it won't be there. It will be coming soon, very soon. So also disclaimer on that, things are subject to change slightly. So what we're going to do in this demo, I'm going to do a configuration between Turnitin and Moodle. This is because Moodle can only run a single instance. There's no SaaS provider of Moodle. So this is the use case where you'll have to create an entire new registration for each instance of Moodle. Unlike Blackboard, where they have a SaaS platform and you can make one registration and reuse that registration across multiple instances and just manage the deployments. In Moodle, you have to do the registration and the deployment. So here I'm just logged in as an administrator into Turnitin. You can see that I've got my account here of my own university. And I'm going to go into configuration. And now I have this LTI 1.3 option along with standard LTI or LTI 1.1. And because I've not set up any configurations before, it gives us a nice little handy bit of information saying what you're going to do here. We've got a link out to our guides if you want some more detailed information about what you've got to do. So I'm just going to click Get Started. So this is where we kind of diverge a little bit to try and make things easier depending on which platform you're using. So we, at the moment, again, this list is subject to change. These are just the ones that I have configured so far. But we've got a few different platforms. So you can see that we've got Blackboard, Brightspace, Other, Moodle. So you would go in here and if you see your platform, you'd select it. If you don't, you'd select Other. What this allows us to do is it means that if you select Blackboard, we just go, well, we already have a registration for Blackboard at a SaaS level. So we're just going to give you the client ID, and you can copy that client ID, go into your Blackboard, register a 1.3 tool, paste it in there, and there you go. It's installed. It's easy as that. But in the case where we actually need to create a registration and kind of copy all of the information over, so I'm going to show this in Moodle. I can select Moodle registration, and you'll see it will give me, first off, some information that I need to copy over to Moodle, and then below that, the information that I need to get back from Moodle. Again, we've got some graphics to try and illustrate this, because although it only happens in theory once per institution or kind of LMS, it's still a fairly cumbersome flow that you have to get your head around. So hopefully down the line, this will all be much easier with dynamic registration. But until that point, this is what we do. So here I've got these different parameters. What it's worth noting is if you go into Moodle and say, okay, I want to configure a tool manually, you'll notice that in our configuration, the different parameters are actually in the same order that you have to paste them in Moodle. They also use the same names as they do in Moodle. And if you swap over to Brightspace, it actually fills it in the order that Brightspace asks you for them and uses the same names that Brightspace uses. Just kind of a usability feature from our standpoint. Maybe it's something that we overlooked when designing the specs, that we should have been a little bit more stringent on, here are what the names of all these things should be for user-facing standpoint. But yeah, anyway, we'll go back to Moodle. So here I start off with my tool URL. I just click on copy. Well, let's give it a name. Demo Turnitin. So paste in the tool URL. Public JWKS URL. So I'm also using Moodle 3.9, which has the keyset URL, which is nice. So we're currently only supporting the keyset URL for making your own registrations, just because it would be very complex otherwise to have people creating their own keys or getting keys from platforms and trying to enter them. Having the JWKS URL allows us to just have a single URL that we can say, here you go, and it will just work. Initiate login URI. Again, paste it in, and then the redirect URLs go in there. We don't need any custom parameters. I will just enable content item for this. Services, let's just say that we can use those and give me all of your information. All right. So this will now create a registration on Moodle. And Moodle now has this registration information for us that we can go and copy back into Turnitin. And again, the fields are in the same order with the same names. So you can just paste all this in and save. Bit of time. Sadly, Moodle doesn't have the nice button to say copy it to my clipboard. Claude's listening. It's a feature request. So copy all that over.
Hopefully we'll do dynamic registration in place.
So there you go. So now I've got all of the information in Turnitin, and I can just hit save. And it says, nearly there, I need to go and create an assignment. So we'll go and do that. Now you can see here that I've got this registration. I can go in and edit it, or I can just remove it. Or I can go and create another one if I had another LMS or a test LMS or something like that I was creating a second registration for. And now if I cancel out that, I go back to my Moodle homepage. We'll just go on a course. So this test course will do. And I'm going to add an activity, external tool, and in demo. I'm going to select demo Turnitin. So when I say select content item, what this will do is, so this is the first time this has ever launched into Turnitin. And we copied all that information across, but that was the credentials. It wasn't actually saying which account we want to use this particular integration with. So this is where we link up with the deployment. So I can just this, and it will say which account do you want to link it to. Let's say, yep, that's my account. Sure, off we go. And that's all done there. I can close that again. I'm not actually going to create a content item through this because there's a bug in Moodle that is yet to be fixed, which causes that to break. So I'll just do a normal LTI launch. It's just Moodle debugging. And this will now launch in to the full LTI tool with memberships and assignments and grades, deep linking, everything like that. It's now all set up. So yeah, that's the flow for registration now within Turnitin, at least. Hopefully it will just give some people an idea of how, even if you don't maybe go to the extent that we have of, catering to different platforms and reorganizing the configuration to suit them, at least just the flow of, this is the kind of information that you need to pass to the platform. This is kind of the flow that you go to. Again, usually going to the tool first to say, hey, I want to create a new registration, creating the registration in the tool, it'll give you some information, go to the platform, enter that information to create the registration in the platform, and go back to the tool to finish off and fill in the last bit of information. And that's pretty much it. So I think we have time for questions for either myself or Diego.
Yeah, I want to say something, Diego, again. Yeah, the question that I received, yeah, I've been looking at it, and I think that yes, Adita was right, and we need to change that in the code. It was a first version, and it was working for me because the same target URL is for me was the same redirect URL, and it was working, but I need to change that in the code there. So thank you very much for the feedback. This is exactly an example of why this is cool to have it open and have collaborative help to improve it. Thank you.
I just want to point out that Diego and Martin, the library you guys have is the best library I've seen. I have seen 2-3 libraries out there. Like from readability point of view, like really great job. Thank you so much. It's really a time saver for us, for someone who is diving into LTI 1.3 right now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Diego and Martin. This is a nice demo to contrast last roundtable where we were able to see registration on the side of some of the major platforms. So to see what's happening on the tool side is also really helpful. So we'll make this recording available in the various lists in that YouTube playlist. That should happen later today. So if you're interested in seeing a recording of today's meeting, that will soon be available. We have a couple of minutes left for any other questions. They can be about the demonstrations, presentations we saw today, or just anything that came to mind during the meeting. We did receive a couple of questions submitted through the Google form, so we'll cover those first while anyone else, if you have a question, feel free add it to the chat or just speak up. So one of the questions was about assessment systems and what is the preferred proctoring service implementation and workflow. I'm not sure if we have any assessment systems present who could answer that. I would say just from what I showed earlier today with the IMS proctoring service built on top of LTI Advantage, LTI 1.3 and similar patterns to LTI Advantage, that's what IMS is working with some members to partner and begin implementing the proctoring service on a partner basis to make sure everything is working as the spec defines it. There's been some early adoption to this point, but no working partnerships that we're aware of. Maybe there are some out in the marketplace that we're just not following. IMS does not have a conformance certification process in place yet for the proctoring service, but that is being worked on. I hinted at it earlier, looking at the LTI landing page. The reference implementation, so James Rissler has created a Ruby-based library that represents both the platform and the tool. That is now fully supporting the proctoring service. So in both the hosted version and the source code, you should be able to test that proctoring launch with a platform or a tool, depending on the flow that you're working with in that scenario. So I hope that answers the questions, and I'll just pause and see if there's anyone with an assessment system that has any insight into your preferred implementation and workflow for proctoring, or if there's any other questions related to the proctoring service. Perhaps one of our next demos in one of these upcoming meetings could be a look at how that reference implementation uses the proctoring spec. So the other question that we received.
So just add on the proctoring. So we've been looking also in the working group to extend the current proposal to see how we could engage the LMS as the orchestrator of proctoring solutions. So like, for example, we could use the LMS to communicate with the proctoring solution to protect the launch to an LTI link. So that would be an extension to the current proposal to extend it above assessment platforms to really use the LMS as the guardians of resources and being able to engage proctoring solutions to allow access to some of these resources, which could include the LTI links. So that's more like future work, but that's something we've started looking at.
Yeah, thanks, Claude. Another question was, what's the current state of LTI regarding external applications, specifically on mobile?
I can show a little diagram of the current possible flow of what the kind of the baseline is for mobile access. I don't know if that would answer the question, but it's going to be very quick, so I can show that. So let me share my screen quickly. Because we have 2 minutes anyway. So I don't know if you see it. I don't know if I can zoom here. Zoom in. Okay. So that's basically the flow when you're in and that's really taking a launch from a mobile web to launch a mobile app. And so the current proposal that we have right now, and we're looking at maybe enriching the specification to shortcut some of that. But right now, the current flow is to say, from the mobile web browser, you're doing a typical LTI launch to the website that owns the mobile app. And this is where the OIDC flow happens. But during this OIDC flow, you detect the mobile context, big by user agent or some other mechanics. In this case, you reverse and actually displaying a resource, you're actually saying open it in app. And when you say open in apps, then now you can craft your deep link mechanics to actually deep link into that resource from within your app and include a token or whatever it needs to be to secure that access. So that's kind of the flow. You go from mobile web to the web version of the app, detects mobile UA, and then therefore, after a verification of the LTI context, offers you a deep link to the actual app. I don't know if that answers or clarifies some of the questions in that area, but that's a proposed approach that we have right now. Right.
All right. Thanks, Claude.
No problem.
There was one other question that was just submitted during the meeting, and it was similar to the reference implementation. Is there a project available for members to run the certification tests against our tool as a nightly build? Perhaps that's something we could add to the scope of the certification test suite. I'm not sure. I don't, other than doing it manually, I'm not sure, if that's desirable.
There's not currently an automated way of running through the certification suite. So yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be something that you could do as a nightly build.
I mean, you could try to find to see like some kind of a Selenium or some kind of browser driver testing. So in this case, maybe giving specific locators or ID into the search suite UI that would allow to have a reverse solid automation. That could be.
I think for now though the answer is probably not great. This has been a feature request a few times, and I think it should just put more weight behind making certification more automatable or usable by vendors who want to do tests against it. I think that is a specific request that we need to measure and improve at some point. And you can probably hack around it now, but yeah, I think we should improve that, and many people have requested it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the top of the hour. I hope all the questions were answered that I didn't see in the chat if there was any we missed, but we should end our meeting here. And I'd point you to that Google form if you have further questions that come up in the coming weeks as we prepare for our next roundtable meeting to take place on the 4th Tuesday of June, the 23rd. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate your attendance and participation. Those who provided those demos, thank you, and wish you all safe and happy times, and we'll see you again in a few weeks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.